Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. Since about a month has passed since my last best decks tier list, I decided to do the best decks tier list today. Basically, I know nothing has changed much when it comes to the decks except for the amazing defender set we're going to be getting in a couple of days, but I still figured I would maybe shrink the list down a bit since we don't have as many tier versions and all of that, since we all know that the meta is pretty much overwhelmed by Ishizu tier. So yeah, I just figured I would do the tier list because Photon Hypernova is dropping in about a month's time, so there's plenty of time to do a follow-up tier list when the actual impactful set comes out. So for today, we're just going to see what kind of changes maybe there are on the tier list since the last one that I did. So we have about 40 decks to cover and the tiers are as per usual. So as for the first deck, we have ABC. I think ABC is like the poster child of Rogue. It's kind of not that great going second, and going first, like, it's able to build some kind of board. Like, it's not bad. You have ways of pairing it with Adventure, Theory, and there's still options for you. You can still play the deck, but I don't think it's going to be better than Rogue if you decide to pick it up. And similarly to that, we also have Adamantia, and the deck is missing Block Dragon. That's pretty much what it is. It's able to make boards, and it's not bad, but it was one of those decks where the way that it was played, all of these amazing busted band cards were in it, like Linkross, like Block Dragon. And when you take away all of that, the deck is still fine if it goes uninterrupted and builds a board going second and going first and going second, it draws side cards and engine. That's like the perfect scenario, but the perfect scenario is not always going to happen. And I feel like those decks are almost not worth playing sometimes because they're that fragile and that bad compared to like the best decks, and the power gap is just way too big. So yeah, then we have Ultrageist, and I'm just going to throw it in not good. To be perfectly honest with you, like, overall, I just think that when it comes to trap decks, if you look at something like Labyrinth, the deck seems interesting. It seems rogue, in my opinion, and it's going to get even better post Photon Hypernova. And also the Trap Tricks deck with the Trap Trick structure deck also seems really interesting. But looking at some other trap decks, it just seems like they're not enough. What Ultrageist was carried by was obviously Mystic Mine, because you need card advantage to be able to overwhelm your opponent, especially in such an intense meta that we have right now. So I don't think Ultrageist is good. I also don't think Dynamorphia is good. I just think those decks are like missing something. Dynamorphia, what it's missing might be some kind of support. For Ultrageist, I don't think they're getting any, but like, yeah, for now, I think those decks are just not good, and I just don't really see them be able to compete at a high level. And Blackwing as well, it's like, you know, it's such a cool deck. I'm a huge fan of Blackwing. I'm a huge fan of the boards they're making, and the support was really, really nice. But I just feel like sometimes it makes me kind of sad seeing how a deck receives support and the support is not good enough, because it's like, would it really hurt you to give them a bit of a better support just to make them rogue or somewhere in that, I guess, area, because it would just be nice to see. It does seem like a fan favorite deck, and seeing it in the Naga category makes me really sad, but I don't think it's better than that, to be perfectly honest with you. And then we have Tri-Brigade, which I think I'm going to put them at the top of Rogue, and that's Lyrilless Tri-Brigade. I didn't put the pictures together because it's still like you can play whatever you want. I do think the Bird Up version is better, obviously with the Recital Starling coming to 2. Tinky is at 3. Like, the deck is slowly getting to full power, and I'm honestly here for it. I like the deck. I think it's a really nice contender. It is a bit weird playing it in the meta where shufflers are a thing, the Ishizu shufflers, because they're taking away your resources, so you can't really perform your link summons to the best of your abilities, I guess. But top of Rogue, I think, is like the perfect spot for it. Right now, like I said, the meta is very intense, and I think you need to be an insane deck to be able to break through into the tier 2, even tier 1 category. So top of Rogue for now, I think. And then we have BA. Those decks are like, they're just not good. I'm sorry, it's just what it is. They've been around for a very long time. Power creep got to them, and even though they're slowly getting cards back, like they got Graf, Seer, all of that, you know. Obviously Dante was always like untouched, pretty much. It's not enough, sadly. Okay, then we have Branded Bishio Despia. So I decided to cut the regular Despia and the regular Dragon Link that I used to have on this list, because I think right now, if you're not playing Bishios, like the package in those two decks, you probably shouldn't be running the deck anyway. And I think the Despia deck is tier 2. It's really, really, really strong, but you need to look at the representation. You need to look at even like the support from Potent Hypernova. It's going to make the deck even better. So I don't think it's warranted for me to put it higher right now. I think the deck is really nice, and I think what it's got going for it, obviously on top of the consistency, is the Bishios, which is a very good choice still in this meta. And yeah, I just think we'll see the deck perform at high levels going forward. But right now, I think tier 2 is like the spot for it. And like I mentioned, you know, you need to play, if you're playing Dragon Link, you need to play it together with Bishios, and I think it should go in the Rogue category, maybe above the Tri-Brigade Bird Up deck, but I do think it's almost like the same power level. The deck is really, really interesting. Like, it's nice, but sometimes if you're up against a matchup where the Bishios are not going to do anything for you, your hand essentially is almost a brick because you played that many Bishios, because you played the entire package. So sometimes it gets a bit awkward, and that's why I think it shouldn't be higher than Rogue, although the deck is really nice and really interesting. And then looking at Crystal Beast, obviously like the Necro Valley deck, you all know it is what it is. Like, it's Necro Valley, and it's the body spam which gets you to like rank 4 Xyz monsters like Dweller, Baguska, all of that. The deck itself probably wouldn't be that great without those cards, and it's just something we need to, I guess, realize. And I think we should place it somewhere in Rogue though. Like, the deck is interesting, but it is kind of obvious that it's not as strong as some of the other decks. And Dark World. So, I don't know. I think I'll place it somewhere over here. Honestly, I'm not a fan of Dark World. I think it has some potential, and I get that there's hand loopings. I get that it's, when it gets going, it's able to get so much resources and amass so much advantage, but it doesn't seem that great to me. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. I just don't see it in this deck. Rogue, sure, it could maybe be even a bit lower, but I just don't think it's as great. Maybe it was the wrong time in which it was printed in, like the December last year. Like, that's not a time to print a completely new deck when you have the meta overwhelmed by Ishizu tier and all of that. So that's pretty much what it is. Like, And then DDD is like, it's just not good. I'll place it somewhere over here. You all know what it is. It's like, it's the combo deck that just never gets the time to shine. It never gets the spotlight because everything else just overpowers it. If it gets hand trapped, I don't think it's always going to be able to play through it and continue. And it's a bit fragile. It's also hard to pilot. And at that point, are you really trying to master DDD if you know that even if you play it to the best of your abilities, it might not even see the success you wanted to see? Hopefully that makes sense, but I don't think it's better than not good. Dino, on the other hand, I think it's interesting. I think it should be somewhere in the middle of Rogue. It's not a bad choice. Like, you're able to play through so many things that otherwise would be able to hinder some other decks, like, I don't know, the Scythe Lock or something like that, where it would pretty much be very nice against a myriad of decks, but against Dino, you just don't really care, and it's able to put up decent boards going second. I always say going second. Going first, it's able to go second, obviously. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is an insane card, and yeah, you're able to run Kaijus for problematic cards. It's a decent rogue deck, in my opinion. And Draco Slayer. So I decided to cut the Endymion guide that I had as a picture to represent pendulum decks, and I wanted to focus specifically on Draco Slayer. It's not that I think the Endymion deck is bad or pendulums overall are bad. Again, I think we need to look at the representation. And yeah, I think if the only deck people are playing when it comes to the pendulum versions is Draco Slayer, it's probably the deck we should be including in the tier list. I think Draco Slayer is so nice. I'm playing it currently, and oh, I just knocked my pop filter. I'm playing it currently, but I do see some glaring issues. Sometimes you're not able to play it through a hand trap, like even one hand trap in a weird hand, and sometimes you just play through everything. It's of course able to run Necro Valley, which is great, and the boards it puts up are really, really, really nice, but it still seems as though it's missing that little something to make it even better. I don't think it should be tier 2, even though there's a ton of potential in it, and it does seem, being at like the top of Rogue pretty much, it does seem like one of those decks that post the ban list, which probably will address a couple issues, it's going to get much, much, much better. So those are my 2 cents on Draco Slayer. I might be biased because I like the deck and I'm playing it, but I don't think I am, honestly. I think it's the perfect placement for it. Okay, then we have this deck that I just... you know, Dragon Mates are like... I've never been a huge fan of the deck, but I guess we can place them somewhere over here because what they got going for it, it's the Bestios, obviously. It's nice to pair them up together. Magnamut is able to search your follow-up in the end phase. It's not bad, but it does seem like the obvious choice to put in the Rogue category. It's just not as strong as some other decks. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is when it comes to Dragon Mates. And then we have Jaichon. So... honestly, right now, I'm going to put them at the top of not good. It's not their time yet, and we're also going to throw Eldritch in there as well. We might throw them a bit lower, actually. Lower. Somewhere over here, I guess. Because you really get hurt by Bestios. No, let's throw them in, bruh. You can't be playing Eldritch right now. Bestios might be falling off, and it's very much dependent on what the ban list hits are going to be and how decks like evolve going forward. But yeah, as for right now, Eldritch, Jaichon, all of that, it's just not worth playing, and we might even put them a bit lower. There's a ton of potential in these decks, but not in the meta where you obviously get hard countered because you're a light deck. So there's just that. Earth Machine, a very, very obvious rogue deck, I think. We can place them like maybe next to Dino. This deck is interesting because it's like, it's not bad going second, it's actually really nice going second, but going first, you're able to adapt, you know, with your floodgates because you don't care about types, you don't care about attributes because you're an Earth Machine deck. So even your name is saying like play floodgates, counter the meta. So yeah, I think Rogue is fine. And Exosister, I think Rogue as well. Like, I've been seeing this for some time now. I think I'll place it somewhere over here. The deck is not good, at least in my opinion. What this deck did was it was countering tier. It's still countering tier. It's playing Shifter, Necro Valley, all of that. But the deck itself is not that great. So it shouldn't be placed higher because it's not going to be doing that well. Are you seeing this deck get a ton of tops? I don't think you are. So like, I don't know. I think only Rogue. This deck just doesn't seem that great. And Flunder, yeah, I think I'll put Flunder in tier 1 for sure. Flunder is like the best counter to the meta. It's consistent enough to achieve the boards that it's supposed to achieve. It's just so annoying to deal with. It has a ton of things, just a ton of different disruptions, and I think it's nice. I think it's a very strong deck right now, and I think it's going to be moving forward as well. But we are going to be seeing some hits on the ban list, hopefully. So yeah, this placement just might change on the next tier list. So next up we have Heroes, and I think I'll put Heroes like maybe even above Dark World. Dark Claw is insane, and in a meta like that, you can abuse Dark Claw, and I think you can like... Actually, we can like switch this around maybe. Heroes are nice. I'm a huge fan of the deck. I think it has a lot going for it. And obviously Dark Claw is like the main thing. So like somewhere towards the upper part of Rogue, I think is the spot for it. Then we have Adignister. Those decks, like we can just start throwing down here. The deck is not bad, but no one's really playing it. And what this deck did was like it was running Mystic Mine, obviously hand traps, all of that, getting advantage, having the towers link, but it's like not good right now. Also IDS, this deck is like not good enough because power creep happened and like the Mekaba and all of that. That's not going to be enough, I think. And yeah, it's just Alistair. it fell off, even though a lot of us were screaming for Meltdown and all of that to get banned, limited, whatever. But they knew what they were doing. They just let time do its thing, and Alistair just fell off, pretty much. Then we have Naturia Ishizu. So this one is going in tier 2 in my opinion, and that's also Naturia Ishizu Runic. I don't have Runic in the picture, but I do want to stress that if you're playing this deck, I think you should be playing Runic. I think the engine is so insane in this deck, and I'm a huge fan of it. I love seeing any kind of replays, any kind of live duels. I just enjoy the gameplay of this deck a lot. I think it's so nice, and what the Runic engine provides you is like the backbone that you have, the amount of plays you're able to do because of that engine is so nice. Going into synchros, drawing cards, just amassing resources, amassing advantage, utilizing Ishizu cards, the shufflers, Naturia Beast. Overall, the Naturia side of things, like the Mo Cricket and the Camellia, are insane support, and I like the deck. I like the deck a lot, and I see a ton of potential in it. And I think it's very much deserving to be in the tier 2 category. And speaking of the tier 2 category, actually, we can play Swordso in tier 2. I think Swordso is like really nice right now. It needed some time. Like when Swordso became power crept, it was really sad to see because it was like the top deck last year, but it needed some time to really get going again. It's able to utilize Shifter, and it's just with the synchros, when you're banishing stuff, for example, you get a round of the Ishizu Tearlament stuff where they won't get triggered because they're banishing them. So it's like, it's your unique way of dealing with the best deck. You're burning them, so it's much easier to OTK. And I think you have enough extenders in place to just establish those boards, even though you might get hurt a bit by Bestios when it comes to your Tenies. I still think it's worth playing Swordso. I think it's a nice choice right now, and it's pretty much interchangeable between Swordso and Naturia Ishizu, I think. And yeah, I'm glad to see Swordso make its way to tier 2. It's also an insanely cheap deck to pick up. So if someone is like getting into the game, I would highly suggest picking up Swordso. I think it's a smart choice. I think it's a smart choice right now. So yeah, then we have the Pio deck, then the Dragon Bestial, all of that. I think I'm just going to throw this in Rogue, maybe next to Exosister. The deck is not bad, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't think it's consistent to the point where it's worth running. And if you're trying to play a combo deck right now, just play Shizu tier, you know? It's like, the deck is interesting, the deck is really good. The deck is not exactly one of those combo decks where you make like the insane unbreakable board where your opponent cannot play. It's very interactive, it's very interesting, playing during the opponent's turn. I'm literally describing Ishizu tier right now. I'm not even talking about the Pio deck anymore. So we can like place Ishizu tier on the tier list, like might as well. So that's what I'm saying, like Ishizu tier is the way to go if you're playing combo decks right now. The deck is so above everything else, and at that point, if you're comparing it to something like the Pio deck, then the Dragon Bestial, all of that, it becomes kind of obvious why this one is in Rogue and that one is in Goated. So that's just what it is. And the deck I decided to add was Kashtira, so I didn't have it on my last tier list if I'm not mistaken. I still wanted to add it right now. I think it's only Rogue because there's no support yet. So I think Kashtira should go somewhere like maybe over here, maybe above Exosister. It does seem really interesting, and the builds right now are running the insane amount of extenders because you don't have extenders yet, but we are getting all of that in the support. So I think I changed my mind. I'm going to place it a tiny bit lower just because there's no support yet. So it doesn't seem worth it yet. And I think post Photon Hypernova, things are going to change. It might not be the best contender. And I mentioned this a ton in my other video, so I won't get really into the details, but pretty much to sum it up, I think the deck can be quite easily countered. So I don't think it's going to be at the top, but I still think right now it's Rogue and it's going to move up post Photon Hypernova. And then we have Madolce as well. I think Madolce is a decent Rogue contender, actually. I think I'm going to place it over here. Basically, with Ishizu stuff, it gained a ton. And I've always been kind of against Madolce. I can't really decide why. I never could. I just didn't really like it. But I like the fact that it's running Ishizu stuff. It's also able to play Kashira Fenrir, and it makes it a bit more interesting, at least to me. And obviously it diversifies its interruptions, and it's cool to see. I think it's deserving to be in the rogue category. And Marin says also, I think it should be somewhere over here. Like, it's not a bad rogue deck, but it just kind of fell off. It's playing a ton of hand traps, so that's really, really, really nice. It's something you want to be doing if you're playing hand traps at all. And then I think it's decent. I think it's decent, but probably shouldn't go higher than this. Mathmech right now is still not good in my opinion. It could probably go at the top of not good. I've seen and, read about people saying, there's this line of play, you can do all of that to play around Bestios, and all of that is true, but Bestios still hurts you to the point where I don't think it's worth running the deck right now. But again, if Bestios fall off, it just might be worth it. So then I also wanted to include Mikanko. Obviously with Amazing Defenders, we're getting 3 strategies, but the other 2 don't seem that great. And with Mikanko, what we have seen on YouTube, you probably know, was the Mikanko Libromancer deck, which seems really, really interesting. But I'm going to put it in Rogue, I think. Maybe like somewhere over here, because it hasn't seen any success yet, obviously. Amazing Defenders isn't even out yet, and this is just a couple ideas people had, and I guess unofficial tourneys, they played that and did well with Libromancer Mikanko. I think it's nice. I'm not a huge fan of ritual decks overall. So there's that. It might not be exactly my cup of tea, but I do think it seems really interesting, and I wanted to include it on this tier list. And then going over, I wanted to say Prank Kids, RIP to Prank Kids. Going over Phantom Knights, I think they can go somewhere over here. Phantom Knights are actually no, let's place them lower. Bestios just hurt it to the point where it's not even funny. I guess over here is fine, and we can switch this around maybe. No, let's leave it like that. Jaichan. No, I think I'm actually satisfied with all of that. So then Morphia might go a tiny bit higher though. I think this is perfect. So yeah, Phantom Knights, they get hurt by Bestios. They just seem weird. I always say this, I always get hate, but they don't seem like they're ending on anything. They're able to spam out bodies, but what are you doing with them? It's like before with Verte Anaconda, it was obvious you're going for Dragoon, you're going for DPE, you're doing something. But right now you just don't seem like you're doing anything. So yeah, moving on to Rika. I think Rika is Rogue, probably somewhere towards the top of Rogue, but still only Rogue. It's just it has slightly fallen off. And Runic, I think, should go quite high in the Rogue category. We've seen success at YCS Sydney, and it's just this horrible deck with Floodgates and Messenger of Peace and all of that, which I don't even want to get into it. It's it's Rogue, it's able to contend, might even be towards tier 2. But I can't even with these stun decks. I don't even want to get into it. Salamangreat power creep happened. It's just, it is what it is. Let's place them here. Sky Striker is cool because it's able to run runic stuff in it. So that's interesting. It can go in Rogue, I think. Yeah, it could go in Rogue, somewhere over here. It's nice. It's still, not exactly viable. I wanted to say viable. It's not exactly viable, but you can still pick it up and play it. And if you pair it with Runic, I think that's not a bad choice. Sprite, the obvious tier 1 contender. I think Sprite is so nice. It's so nice. Being able to have a good matchup against almost every single deck, among the best decks, being able to play hand traps, being able to do the Ibli lock, it's just amazing to me, and I think it's very much deserving to be in tier 1. And then let's just throw in Guru and Virtual World as well. So I think Virtual World should go in bottom of Rogue, somewhere over here, I guess. It's only Virtual World. It's funny to say this at this point in time, but it's past its prime. And yeah, Guru, just a meh trap deck. I think it should go maybe here, next to the other trap deck. I think I like that. So that would be the tier list. I think I'm satisfied with this. like I said, the most interesting tier list is going to be the next one, I think. Post-Photon Hypernova. Things are going to change, and I'm so excited for that. I'm looking forward to that. So let me know, what are you playing right now? Also, let me know, what do you think is going to happen when it comes to the ban list? Is it even going to happen, you know, before Photon Hypernova comes out? And what your choice of deck is going to be moving forward. I want to hear all of that in the comments down below. So yeah, if you like the video, guys, of course, like it, sub to the channel, check out all of the social media, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.